So instead of being scared of people maybe perceiving like I can't handle the pressure, I am the pressure. That's the position I've decided to take.
From CNR JUTA DE BEER, formerly known as Lwazi Madonsela, bringing you a show about creative entrepreneurs live from the landmark that not only birth SA street culture, but also formalize the street hustle. On today's episode, we have
Minenhle. CNR JUTA DE BEER special edition. Thank God for the savings. Him, and today we're sitting with music extraordinaire, Minnie, someone who made their mark in marketing all the way from high school to now. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Also, I should say Minenhle.
Yes.
Because that's who you are on LinkedIn,
Oh, wow.
Just for the people trying to search.
Yeah, if they want to find me on LinkedIn, sure.
What does it take to do marketing and music? Because everyone always looks at music from a consumption standpoint. What happened for you to be like, maybe I can make money without singing?
Well, first of all, I've never wanted to be a star. To answer the first question in terms of how can I make money in music without singing, I've never wanted to be on stage or in front or on the mic or anything like that. To be honest, I stumbled into it. I worked obviously in FMCG before, but within that company that I was working with, I worked at Boiler Room and all these different organizations for music. Then I managed Zakes Bandwini for about 8 months to a year. And then through that, obviously managing an artist that's, a South African legend, been in the industry for about 15 years, I was like, what does it take to have such a long tenure in music? I'm trying to see what that's like, as opposed to obviously the gigs and the performance. So I kind of stumbled into it. And then obviously I applied for the position at Sony, and then I was a record label manager for 2 years. And that was where I gained the real life experience, having to actually know the music industry, the music business, and how we can actually market music, especially in this day and age, and the way that we consume it, and how streaming has changed the trajectory of the music industry as opposed to what we knew it to be. So that's pretty much a stumble.
What do you think independent artists are getting wrong about this whole music rollout? Because most of them, they do have quality music, but it's not connecting. They're not getting to the point where it's even right now when you reflect and look, we still have two big stars. It's just Nasty C and Casper. And Casper's still head and shoulders above Nasty to a certain degree.
I think what they're not getting right is the basics. Everybody's kind of rushing for the city lights. Everybody's rushing for the Hollywood sign. And people, I think, over the years have underestimated how important the fundamentals are. So just making sure that everything is in check in terms of your profile as an artist. Is your bio done? Do you have your press images ready? What kind of deal have you signed? And what is the objective of, a particular project? Because you as an artist and your career doesn't have to be linear, doesn't have to just be this one thing that you want to do. Maybe there's a particular project that you might want to take in a different direction, but you've got to know that. So I think it's just the fundamentals, really sitting down and planning. It's all about strategy. It's all about what are we aiming to do and who are we trying to be? But what is it going to take for me to get there? Let me make sure that I've covered the bases first. Because in understanding the kind of support and the positioning and, of obviously all these big stars in any type of genre, there was at some particular point, somebody might have come to them and said, look, it's amazing that this is happening for you and, things are happening and you're shooting off, but we need to get the basics right to make sure that when it's time to put you up for more support, everything is in check in the house. So if I make an example of DSPs, which is, your Apples, your Spotifys, Amazon titles, something as simple again as making sure that your profile is up to date and it's really you. People think they don't check for bots, but they need to know that it's you. That's what the verification tick is for, making sure that your bio is there so people know who you are. As soon as your camp is in order, those platforms will be more incentivized to support you. So I think they're missing just the basics, the building blocks. We don't have to shoot up immediately. And I get it, depending on the different pressures and what people are trying to achieve, they might think I'm above this, or, I don't really want to focus on that right now. My moment is now, and I kind of just have to, seize the day. And I'm it can also live beyond carpe diem, depending on what the fundamentals are looking like for you. So, and it happens to everybody, whether it happens in the beginning or somebody brought them back down to say, yo, this is amazing that your career is doing this, but we need to fix this. Then I think that's a very big gap that we're experiencing across all genres of music, to be honest.
Looking back at the time you spent in the music industry, in marketing, what would you say actually makes someone stand out? Because all of us, we have these talent and skills, which, thank God for the 21st century, you can actually go to a school and study art. You can go to this and study this. What actually allows for people to stand out in this gigantic industry? As you said, you have Amapiano, you have Afrotech, you have all these divisions within the creative industry. What makes people stand out?
I think what makes people stand out right now is you can always tell when somebody wants it badly. You know, you can always tell when somebody also cares about it enough. Like, you can want something badly enough but not really care. So what makes people stand out is the quality of the product that they put out and creating consistency in that, because a lot of the time people can just decide that I'm going to create a quality product right now because it's the season. So if you look at how South Africa is, like, we know that our December starts in September. So everybody's kind of like rushing to release and put music out. But what makes it stand out is that the quality of the song or product that I hear now will be the same quality I hear in December, will be the same quality that I hear in January, February, March, April, May. It's the consistency. We can't really say preparation because, you know, it's different. Like, it's so, you can't define preparation as one thing for artists, but it's the quality of your product and actually caring how it's delivered to people is what makes people stand out. Because again, you could just be in a position where you're like, my stuff is rocking on TikTok right now, I just need it out. And then it's like, okay, cool, then they'll just put it out, I guess, because you want it out. But you will know that someone cares because they're throwing their muscle behind it. You know, maybe they're spending a little bit more time on socials or creating, you know, some content and making sure the quality throughout anything they're doing for that product is the best. And that's what makes them stand out, as opposed to like, you know what, I just want it out so that people know that I have a product out, which isn't necessarily the best thing unless you've decided. Because that's another thing that people don't understand in music is like, you've got to ask artists what they want. And if they just want the song out, then they just want the song out. And it's like, okay, cool, as long as you understand the implications of that. But it's consistency. Like, how are you actually...
What are the implications?
The implications of just having a song out. Yeah. It might not have the support you might have anticipated. It might not do as well. Like, it might just fly by. Because if you think about the fact that I know right now in the country, the biggest, you know, growing genre, and it is the fastest growing genre, is Amapiano. It's growing faster than we have the capacity to even keep up with it. Yeah. So that might be the threat to people just wanting to like put music out just so that it's out. I know a lot of people do it for visibility purposes, just to kind of, as a launch pad to be like, I'm also an artist, or I'm also a vocalist, or I'm also a producer. But the implications is it could literally just like move with the waves. You know how, like, you know, in the ocean, it just kind of goes, it's like a shell. It's like it washes up on the shore and then it gets left behind. But if you stick to it, and I'm not saying stick to it for like a year, right? But I'm trying to get into a space where when I interviewed for my role, I used Tyler, the Creator, as my framework. Somebody that releases an album every 2 years, which means he gives himself 2 years to work on that one singular product. So we don't have that right now where it's like, look, you think music expires or you think it's seasonal, and some music might be just in terms of, you know what, I want to put out like a commercial banger for like December. That's cool. The implications of that is that it might just be a December banger, as opposed to the fact that if you put out this product now and understand that you want to grow with it and have your audience grow with it, I'm still going to be listening to your music in about a year. So those are the implications, is that if you just want the song to be out, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be listening to the song in 2-3 months.
Cool. What happens then? I do put out the song and it does catch on, and then big events like Rocking the Daisies are then calling on me to come perform. What are the implications for me when I have like 3 solid songs? How do I actually perform and work these songs on the big stage? Because the audience only knows my smash hit.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if my song was Mnike, that's all everyone's trying to hear from me. What do I do? Do I perform the same song for 30 minutes?
No, so I think, I'll take Mnike as an example, or Tyler ICU. If you have a good team behind you, which he does, they will then take that opportunity to bring forward your catalog, and your catalog has hits. Like, people won't realize that, oh wait, like, we've been dancing to the song and listening to the song, and it's been Tyler ICU the entire time. So you obviously can't play the same song for 30 minutes. In fact, whenever an artist, or what I've noticed personally, it's not necessarily a standard, whenever I've noticed with an artist, if they have like a really big song at the time, they actually tend to perform that song either in the middle of the set or in the beginning, because if you leave it towards the end, it's kind of like people might anticipate it, whereas you want to use that opportunity to let people know, like, okay, cool, I've made this like smash, but I've made so many others, and this is actually who I am. So again, an example like Tyler ICU, you made, Izolo, and DJ Maphorisa always gets on stage and raps because obviously he raps on that song. So now when Tyler, whether it's locally or internationally, when he plays that song, people will be like, oh, like that's you as well. Like you know how to make multiple hits. It isn't just this one time. Yeah. So I think it's just all about having the correct team behind you to also help you structure that, to say that, look, we've got this one smash that has, taken us globally, but then we also need to bring back catalog and introduce everybody else to all the other smashes. It's just that we maybe locally will know them and maybe Africa will also know it, but now's the chance to actually show people you're beyond just that one hit. You're actually behind a lot of hits. So then that obviously brings your catalog forward and then builds the trust within you being able to perform in different countries and at different gigs, and not just anticipating Nige, as an example.
Now Nigga blows up. I'm trying to perform in all these different countries.
Yeah.
What actually are the hindrances? Because now they want me in America, they want me in Spain, they want me in New Zealand. How do I actually move as an African citizen, firstly, to then get all these working visas? Because we all want to blow up, we all want to succeed.
Yeah.
But then there's those things that are beyond our control and our hard work.
True. Yeah, that one's a tough one. I think that's the industry struggle right now. Especially with like first-time people out the country. So we don't forget, because obviously we're in South Africa, we don't forget our history, we don't forget our past, and how that's set so many people and families back. Yes, there is obviously the very small group of people that won't necessarily experience issues of, like visas or applications or having to travel because maybe they come from good homes or, they've gotten work opportunities that have push them out into the world. So the difficulties might come literally in terms of like visas and applications and also the costs. Sometimes you have to weigh up, what it's going to cost you to actually go to that gig outside the country versus what you're going to make. Because at the end of the day, it's a job, right? It's not bad to want to make money from it. That's not a terrible thing at all. And I don't think anybody should feel bad about that. It's a risk analysis. It's like a cost to, that everybody now has to do, because it's like I have to pay X amount for a visa to get into this country, and then I need to pay for X amount for flights to get into this country and accommodation. I've never traveled alone, so now I need to bring somebody else that's traveled before to kind of take me through the range. So that's another additional cost. So there are a lot of barriers, but I'm noticing that those are like the immediate ones, just in terms of like first-time travelers. But all you ever need is one success story to get to the other side. And then it's a lot easier from there, because the international communities also start building the trust of the audience that the artist is going to be there. There's been a lot of problems with promoters and trust with their audience, that you're telling us that this particular star is going to be performing at the show and people buy tickets. But then now visas either don't arrive on time, or they've been approved but they're stuck at embassies, and then people are not trusting now that you said Musa Keys is going to be here, but now he's dropped off on the lineup 24 hours before because of visa matters, or the fact that like we're from South Africa, so the flights are long. Like we're not flying like low cost between states. Like we're literally flying halfway across the world. So sometimes it's also a matter of timing, that the time in which I get the necessary documentation to travel versus the time I do have to travel to make this thing on time are the immediate difficulties that the industry is facing. I don't think it's genre specific, it's just genre focused right now. Again, speaking to how fast Amapiano is growing versus the capacity for anybody to keep up. Whether that be us that work in the industry, whether it be the country, like the government, and understanding that, this is a genre and this is a people that represent the country. And I would ask the government like why they're not treated like the athletes, because the national teams can hop on a plane and go to Paris right now, as representatives of the country. But this homegrown thing that has grown so fast and is at a risk of losing the narrative because people aren't able to go the other side and start the narrative properly and feed the proper narrative. Like, this is what the lyrics mean, and this is the dance, and this is who actually sings the song, and this is the producer. It like trickles down because we can't get there. Another person from, I'm not going to be country specific, but another person from this country can easily just go to LA and say, yeah, no, I'm a piano. And it's like, that's not what that means.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how to like address it without having to sound like it's venting, and not present the actual facts of the fact that like we're at a risk of losing a lot of narratives if we're not there to actually shape it. That's just the truth.
Amapiano keeps growing, the music industry struggling to keep up, but somewhat carving a new path. How are you creating new opportunity for yourself? Because you came in at some stage as the Red Bull girl who's at every party, to now you independently starting your own company.
Look, the first thing I'll say for me is ever since I was like a child, because I started working when I was 16, but just because I wanted to. Like sometimes you work because you're like, I want to buy my own top shop, like, you know, I want to go like tash with my friends, you know. So that's why I started working, just to understand like the value of money. But then through getting your first job when you're much younger, you understand the fundamentals of what it means to hold down a job and work with people and build relationships. That was the most important lesson I learned in my first job. I worked at like a boutique hotel as a waitress. So that's also the first thing that made me realize that, okay, cool, I need to be in service of people. I'm not a product person, I'm a service person. Like, how am I going to help people? Maybe not necessarily in hospitality because I don't have the temperament for it, but I was like, okay, cool, you're gonna be in service of people one day. Cool. Then obviously you move on, you grow up, you go to university, and you know, you work all these different jobs and do cool things. So from being a Red Bull girl, excuse me, and really growing and then maintaining those relationships to working as a record label manager at Sony Music was literally all about relationships. Anything that I've ever done has always been based on relationships that I've nurtured and I've built, which is really lucky, but also not really. I put in the work, you know. But
how do you cultivate the sense of community? Because most of us, it's like, I'm still rendering the service of being a service worker.
Yeah.
What then happens for you to cultivate the relationship? Say, actually, Minnie, I have an opportunity for you here. And also, how do you actually express your skills?
Yeah.
When you came in as just the waiter to say, I can do this and that.
I think you just have to put like one extra step forward. So, I mean, the normal human thing is that one foot in front of the other, you know, that's how we walk. But the best way to cultivate relationships is to just put in a little extra step, or maybe take a larger stride towards building that relationship with people. It can be something as simple as showing up to events without a guest list, maybe buy tickets sometimes, be a little bit more visible, show that you actually care about whether it's the company or the service or the product. There's always small little nuances that you can do to convey that like, I'm trying to build this particular relationship. And that's what I did. So as much as you can be like, excuse me, the Red Bull girl and like drive around town, that's cool, but maybe spend an extra 10 minutes at a particular place, getting to know the people or getting to know like, you know, who's who. That's something I used to do at the time. So fine to be in BRAAM, we're in the streets, you know, we give everybody Red Bull, but spend an extra 10 minutes when there used to be a Boys and Bugs pop up and see what's happening. You know, it's not something that you now have to go home and like journal about it and be like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, change or whatever. It's just, for them, it's like, oh, okay, like she really cares. Even if it's like an extra 5 to 10 minutes, take that extra time. So that's how I was able to cultivate relationships. It's like, take a longer stride and just do things without being asked. Do things without making it about yourself. Do things without, it's thankless work sometimes, and you gotta be okay with that. So, you know, don't expect a dap because you came to the event or because, you know, you bought my t-shirt or you bought my hoodie. They know that already. You've just gotta trust that they receive it in that light of like, I'm really trying to like build a relationship with this person because it's gonna benefit me in the end. And it really has. And in the music industry, it's a bit tougher, but because it's a trust, I mean, in general, it's not a genre thing. Music and trust is a huge thing. So building relationships in that community is a little bit harder, but it's more or less the same thing. Just show up, just be there, show that you care, ask them what they're up to, like what's happening, the next drops or whatever it is. And then that's it, like take yourself home and convey the support like any way you can. Obviously right now, everyone thinks they're too cool to do that. Like everybody thinks, I'm gonna be dick riding if I repost. No, you're building a relationship with somebody and showing that you care. You're taking that extra stride. Whether they thank you or not shouldn't matter, because there's going to be a time where you're going to be able to pick up the phone and maybe you need something or you need some advice or, you know, they need you on a show or whatever, and they'll be happy to do it because they can trust that, you know what, this is a person that's not just here for the moment, or they're not just here for who I present to be. They really do care about the kind of work that we're doing. Yeah.
You're in these rooms, you've created opportunity, they're now seeing you. How do you play your position? Because most of us, we have this mentality of like, oh, I figured how you make money, so I should be the boss too. We don't know how to play our position and say, yeah, as much as I might think I know more, or as much as I might believe I've seen more, how do I stay in this position? Say, yo, I'm head of marketing, I'm head of strat, I'm head of this, and understand that's the role I've been given and how to perform at it.
That's my number one belief, hey? I believe everybody just needs to play their role. I think the only gap is everybody figuring out what that role actually is, in terms of the fact that, like, understand what you're good at and what you love and stick to it. You don't need to be everything to everybody. You know, being a jack of all trades, master of none, all these idioms we're always like talking about, or I don't even know if that's an idiom, but you understand what I'm saying, that I believe in just playing your role. And like, once you know how to play your role, you'll be super powerful in that, because you're throwing all of your energy and time into just maintaining that and building that, as opposed to trying to showcase all of your skill. And then it's like, you know, 20%, as opposed to like 80% or like 100% being put in this. So I think that just comes with a lot of self-awareness, and also just like detach your ego from what you do. I think a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people want to be the main character, or they want to be known as like, I did that, or I was the, and it's just like, it's not like I don't believe in credit. Like, that's cool. Like, if it's that, you know what, the world needs to know that I did some dope shit, that's fine. But it doesn't have to be that they know that you did everything. And you also want to do everything because you want to be seen as the person that does everything. And that's the problem that's happening right now. So the manager that you have as an artist, gig-wise, like in terms of the fact that if you're a vocalist or a DJ or whatever it is, might not be the same brew that you want to put in a boardroom at your label to discuss your career trajectory as a musician, because those are two completely different things. Same goes for, might not be the same person you want to put in a boardroom with a brand in terms of building your brand and, you know, what kind of deals or brands you're going to be associated with. And that's okay. But right now, everybody's feeling like, nah, like I want to be the guy that got, you know, the KFC deal, and also the guy that's sitting in the boardroom and talking about, you know, what's happening with the next drop, but also the guy that's booking your gigs. And it's like, that's okay if that's what you can do. You just don't have to. It works so much better when everybody plays their role. And, you know, and you can tell with some artists that they've got a solid team where the team is very clear on who's supposed to do what, and they can kind of engage in those different pieces of the pie. And again, it's all about figuring it out, detaching like yourself completely also, in terms of like, it makes me feel good that I'm able to do this for this person. That shouldn't matter. Because then when it comes to like failures or maybe not meeting those expectations, it's going to knock you a lot harder than it should. When you could have taken that opportunity to be like, you know what, I'm not good at this. Or I just don't have the temperament for it or enough experience to do this. That's something that I had to do. And I was okay with that. And I think a lot of people, again, within themselves, whatever issues that you might have, still have to go through that phase of becoming self-aware and being like, you know what, I'm not so great at this, or I don't have the temperament for this, or I don't have the experience. You know, an example I can make is when I was managing this particular artist, this Afrotech DJ, I knew already that I was like, you know what, I'm young, I don't have the experience and contacts and expertise to take you to the global level you want to be at. So I'm gonna fall back on that. It matters nothing to me to be a part of a team that went and did something like this, whatever, if I didn't play a pivotal role in that, because that's what I believe. I believe in value add. That's my number one thing. Like, it does not matter to be a part of like a big crowd in a mosh pit if Minnie didn't add value to this. That means nothing to me. To be a part of something, but like, what did you contribute here? And it isn't, again, a dabs kind of thing, but that's just what I believe in. That's how I lead my life, is that there needs to be value add in everything that you do. And you will know whether you can add value or not. It actually starts with you. It doesn't start with the person telling you that you're valuable and you're amazing. It starts with you recognizing whether you can add value or not.
What keeps you walking in all these scenarios? Because you start here, you realize you've actually peaked in this room. Let me start this room. What actually keeps you driven, keeps you walking throughout this whole thing of you trying to discover who the Super Saiyan version of yourself is?
Yeah, I think it's passion. Everyone always says that, and like they hear it in my voice, you're like so passionate. And I used to take that as like a condescending thing. But then I actually heard myself speak. I actually don't like the sound of my voice, I'll be honest. I don't. Like, I'll listen to a voice and I'm like, is that what I sound like? But I actually don't like the sound of my voice. And like, I was speaking to my friend Mategi yesterday, and he's like, yo, Minnie, like, I need you to be the spokesperson of my life. Like, your voice is just clean, like you strong. And I'm just like, that's so crazy, because I don't see myself that way. I just start talking. It just kind of like comes out of my brain. That might also just be like the ADHD, but it's passion more than anything. It's actually caring about like, guys, what are we doing? And like, why are we doing it? Like, something you do is only as good as why you do it. And that's what keeps me going. So the reason why I reach the ceiling or, you know, get bored or feel monotonous in something might not be like company specific or environment specific. It might just be me not finding the reason to do this anymore. Like, why am I doing this? And I'm just like, if I can't find a good enough reason for that, I'm gonna stop walking. And that usually happens mentally mentally first before physically. Like, I will always know that I've reached the ceiling depending on like, I'm not feeling the process of things. It doesn't have to be specific. I'll just be like, you know what? I've hit the ceiling here and the glass is cracking. In terms of, you know, whether it's this particular element or whatever the case is, like management. I'd reached the ceiling where I was like, you know what, I don't like this. I don't like walking this walk. I don't like this path. The mirror is cracking over here. I need to get out. And it isn't a form of like, oh, giving up, because it's knowing that like, I'm not passionate about this. There's no passion in my voice when I speak about bookings. Because I'm not passionate about bookings. Like, good for you. I'm passionate about the fact that, you know, I can put an artist or whatever and empower them to be in a position for them to get bookings and make money. That's where my passion comes from. The actual bookings in itself, absolutely not.
Speaking of bookings, when you're looking at it from an artist management perspective and someone who's been in the music industry this long, in same industry holistically, because you've been in marketing in different fields and at different levels, what's the impact of actual big festivals happening in South Africa that are run by South African companies? What does that mean for us when we get to headline certain stages?
I think, because we haven't had them in so long, obviously because of like the pandemic and whatever it is, we need more. Like, the only thing I actually have to say is that we need more. We need more shows that are headed by artists themselves, you know, as opposed to just waiting for like, you know, big international, you know, people to come and like save us. Like, if we think about back in the day, we had like every year we knew that we could see somebody international. You know, I'm from Durban and I remember catching that flight for Kanye West. Like, I was never gonna miss it. So we just need more shows so that you can also build a greater community. People underestimate what attending music festivals, and even if you're not headlining, like even if you're on the smaller stage of a huge festival, because obviously the bigger the festival, the more stages and like touch points that you have. That's also another way that you build a community that we've lost in a couple of years, because again, people are recovering from the pandemic. But the implications are so much greater, and it's to the benefit of an artist, because that's also now completely different. You're a performer. You know, you got to get out there and showcase your talent in terms of your stage presence. You know, how do you relate to your audience? How are you able to capture a new audience within that festival that you've, you know, been booked at? And as somebody that has been festival hopping in the last like year and a half, like I've attended years in a row in Portugal, and then I also went to Africa in Miami, and there was such a big difference in the reception of South Africans in those places. They were both positive, don't get me wrong. Like, people were super excited to see like Durban Go-Go Major League. Like, everyone was rocking, everybody was happy. But, you know, being able to then capture that audience and build that audience is the greater implication and the positive for any artist. Because then that also means that your musical you know, your catalog or your creative direction can grow. If you know that they really love me like in Amsterdam or like, you know, Spain and Ibiza was rocking, you might want to explore, you know, a little bit more dance music. You might want to reach out in that market to see if there's any like dance music or whatever it is that's relevant to that market that will keep you relevant in that market. So that when you booked for the festivals again, or booked for other festivals that maybe aren't as big as, you're good. You've got the audience there. It isn't just based on the fact that you're South African and you killed it. You know, it's more like, okay, cool. now when you look at the numbers, because you can look at the numbers and say, okay, well, who's actually listening to my stuff? Like, where are they? Are they in Nigeria? Are they in Germany? Like, you know, where are these people? And you can use that as a strategy for your bookings to be like, you know what, if these guys are listening to the playlist that I put out on Apple, or, you know, the most downloads of this song is coming from, you know, LA, you can use that as a strategy to say that, okay, cool, like when I'm playing in this particular place, I know the kind of music I should be playing because that's what they're listening to. So it's more of a benefit more than anything to an artist, depending on how they choose to look at it. I would love for artists to look at it beyond just performing. Just beyond like, you know, I'm gonna get on stage, I'm gonna do my thing, 30 minutes to an hour and be off. Especially again, like big festivals like Young Stunner had 20,000 people watching him in Portugal at the same time as 50 Cent. 50 Cent, like that's 50 Cent. So obviously everyone goes to main stage, or that's what you would think. But there were 20,000 people that were like, nah, I want to see Young Stunner, so I'm going to stay here. So you can take that and say 20,000 people waited to hear what I'm going to be performing, right? So let's see what that's about.
What's the impact of then big brands like Johnnie Walker plugging into festivals like Rocking the Daisies, where it's like they bring in their muscle, they bring in the opportunities for everyone in the broader community? How does that actually impact the music industry, entertainment as a whole? I
think, and it's going to be a weird take, a controversial take, but I have worked in brands before. I think brands need to, work a little bit harder in empowering the artists. Like, I do understand, again, bringing in the muscle to the festival so that they can book you, swag. Yeah. But I feel like they can do so much more to actually empower artists, even if it's developing artists. Nobody's saying that you must throw like a 3.5 million sink at an artist and like, you know what I mean? Yeah, money, yes. The sink, yeah, that would be cool. But there are brands that are exploring ways to empower the music industry or upcoming people, entertainment. So like a Stimwell, for example, has like Flow Lab or whatever it is. Johnnie Walker can look at the database that they have, the kind of influencers or whatever the people that they have within that community, and see how they can bring that together for the music industry. So you've got this community, maybe there's a listening session and there's a listening party. Bring those people to that listening session and have those people expose their community to this particular artist. It doesn't have to be that now we're renting out like spaces and doing all these like workshops, because I do understand at the end of the day, brand is brand. You know, we've got brand alignment and directions and values, and there's certain things that brands won't do. So you can't come in, whoever you are, and think that you're going to change the wheel. But you can just tweak it a little bit to be like, okay, cool, within this community that we've built as Johnnie Walker, because they've done an amazing job over the years to really just like, they've come in swinging in terms of like activations that they've done and
empowering little podcasts.
Yeah, yes, empowering podcasts, all of these things. So, but they need to then use that community to either reach artists or empower artists or support them. Like sometimes it's just like a matter of support. So yes, at your activations, start booking those artists at your activations. Again, like I said, with your influencers, the influencing market and the different types of influencers that they have as well, audience, it's so different. So we don't know if, like a K Arms, for example, we don't know if her audience listens to R&B or like Amapiano or whatever it is. And by we, I mean me, like I don't know. Obviously, I don't have those insights. Yeah. But you know, a brand like Johnnie Walker would, because obviously like whether you've hired her as your influencer or not, that's what it's about, right? You come in, you tell us your insight, you tell us where you're at. And then we can put that together with an artist. So if you're an influencer that's saying, listen, my audience is like 21 to 26 and they love listening to hip hop, cool, go put that influencer at a Nasty C listening session. Because her audience is going to be like, oh, cool, like, that's really cool that she also connects with Johnnie, like in all factions of like what Johnnie Walker has been doing. How
do we then monetize our insights as creatives holistically? Because you've come to the table and seen all those insights and what it actually meant. How do I actually take all this data I get from YouTube, all this data I get from Spotify, all this data we now get on Instagram? How do we actually monetize that?
I think you just have to find a way to leverage it. Like, what's the value? Like, that's really cool that 3.5 million people interacted with your tweet. You know, that's cool that your impressions are sitting so high. But okay, like what are we supposed to do with it? You need to come up with what is the leverage. Is it your talkability? Are you likable? Like how are you monetizing it? Is all about, again, what value can you add? So you can bring us the numbers. They can tell you that someone else is going to bring us the exact same numbers, but they have a competitive edge, whatever that edge might be. So you can monetize it in the sense it's like, look, I am a broadcaster, like I'm a creative, I'm in this particular space. Nobody's hitting those numbers like I am. And also I can leverage my community. I can get to the people that you can't. Because if I pick up the phone and call Minnie, she'll be here. But if you pick up the phone and call Minnie, she's not. So that's what I can offer you. You can leverage your community, which is always a big winner in brands. Brands love working with cool people and love doing like cool shit. They just never know how to reach those people. And again, it's all about building the relationships and trust. Once you've built a relationship with someone, they'd be a lot amenable to, yeah, you know what, I'll come to that, or I'll do that. Like, I'll come on that show, like, that's fine, as opposed to a brand that doesn't really have a standing with you, calling you and saying, hey, we'd really like you to be a part of this, whatever. So I always encourage people to leverage their community, because that's a community that they don't have. They don't have it. And even if they gain it at some particular point, you can literally leverage it and offer it to them a lot faster than they could get it. And you could also then, again, try and gain the trust of that community through that person, through that particular custodian. Because you can tell us everything you know about Sour Patch Sweets. That's fine. But I might want to eat them still. But if you come and tell me like, yo, this new flavor of Sour Patch is rocking, okay, cool, I'll hear you out. And that's what people don't understand. We don't have to work that hard. It's all about community. Because they think they have that community based on the fact that, oh, we paying you guys. Like, what do you mean? No. Like, cool. Then if you're going to take the approach of you're just going to cut the check, then I'm also going to take the check and go. But if you want to build a relationship with me, this is how this happens. So I would just leverage the community more than I would the numbers. Anybody can get the numbers at some stage. Give us something that we don't have. Value add.
How's the entertainment industry as a woman?
Look,
a young one also.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's fun. It's fun. Look, I think as a young one, people are gonna nyat you. Like, people are not gonna take you serious. They're gonna be like, like, you ain't been in the game that long. Like, what do you know? Like, despite any experience that you might have, despite who you know, as a young person, before I get to a woman, as a young person in the industry, your greatest tool is getting a cosign from someone that's been in the industry for a long time. And a cosign doesn't necessarily have to mean, yeah, it's a shout out, or whatever, even if you're just hanging out. Maybe you go to a lunch with someone one day and then they link up with someone. They're like, oh, you know this person? And then that already kind of opens their eyes a little bit wider. So that's one of the most key things, is that, you know, try and place yourself in the correct spaces or build, again, the right relationships. As a woman, it's even worse for them to take you seriously. You know, it's kind of just like, well, you know, like, what do you know? And like, what experience do you have? And like, what informs you to kind of like make these type of decisions? And in the previous position that I was in, I was the youngest person doing that. And I was a woman. And my roster consisted majority of men. So I'm coming to niggas and I'm like, yo, this didn't do too great. Like, the numbers on this aren't looking great. Like, what else can we do? Like, what else do you think we can feed into this product to make it better? And everyone looks at you like, what? And it's like, I would watch me deliver news as opposed to my slightly older male colleague deliver the news, and see them kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, I just said the same thing. So being in the industry as a woman, yes, you're always on the back foot, just in terms of the fact that they will nyatsu and kind of like also just not think you can handle certain pressures. Like, they don't think that, I think it's the old thing. It's like the whole thing, like, oh, women are like emotional and they can't really, it will be mostly that thing of like not being able to handle certain pressures or handle certain conversations. So if you look at the world of gigging and music, you know, they'll think, you can't have a women manager because now we have to drive to Mamelodi or Limpopo. Like, how are they going to feel? Are they going to feel safe? And like, all of these things that just really don't matter if you know how to get things over the line. So as a young woman, for sure, I think it's been tough in any job, in any stage. You know, previously being an ambassador for whiskey, everyone used to look at me like, there's no way a young black girl is telling me about, whiskey. And I was like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. So it's tough.
And Johnnie Walker's the best one.
Yeah, so there's Scotch whiskey, because there's different whiskeys. So it's tough in the sense that you just have to back yourself. That's the only thing that you can do. It's thankless work, and you have to be okay with that, but it's thankless work for everybody. So obviously maybe a little bit more women than it is men, and you're going to take a knock a couple of times. You're probably gonna have to say things a lot more. It'll be a lot more repetitive until somebody fully gets it, as opposed to, obviously our male counterparts. But all you can do is back yourself. My only difficulty has been just that, is that, being young and you're black and you're at this level in your career, they still won't believe you. It does not matter. Like, they're still not gonna I'll get questioned a lot more on something that I'll know to be factual and explain it quite eloquently, because I know that I'm very well spoken. I know that I can explain something in a 1, 2, 3 type of manner. That won't matter. They'll be like, okay, cool, but I just feel like, and I'll have to just kind of, you in yourself have to find your own method of dealing with things. So that's why I say the only thing you can do is back yourself. It'll eventually get to the point where they're like, okay, yeah, Shab, you're the father. We need to go to her. Like, she understands this game or this thing for what it is. It does take some time. But again, as a woman, it's just the typical challenges of everyone thinking that you can't handle the pressure. So it was weird for a lot of people for me to be putting in the pressure. I was the one actually applying the pressure and saying, we're not doing enough here, or we can do a lot more with this. And I know that you know that, so why are we wasting time? Why are we just kind of letting this pass us by? It was a big shock for a lot of people. But also I think it's informed by being young. It's kind of like, I'm willing to take the risk. It's okay. Like, I'm willing to sit in front of like an artist and be like, we're not doing great. And we can do great. So let's do it. Like, so instead of being scared of people maybe perceiving like I can't handle the pressure, I am the pressure. That's the position I've decided to take.
Damn. Okay. Pressure's in the room.
Yes, it is.
It's in the room. I feel it. Most importantly, what's your word to the youth?
What's my word to the youth?
Yeah.
Yo, that's a tough one. Which youth?
South African youth, the creative youth.
Like, creative youth. Because there's so many different youths. Like, everybody's choosing their different path. Like, I don't have a word of advice for youth in finance and in banking. I don't know about your world. I can't tell you, yeah, homie, like, stick it out. Maybe it sucks. I don't know. I can't tell you that. So, man, my word to South African youth, especially in creatives, is to, and it's gonna sound harsh, but like, don't be naive. Like, take a step back, take a breather, and think about the things that you're doing. Think about the people you're getting involved in. Think about what you say. I used to talk a lot of shit. Like, when I was young, I had an old Twitter account, thank God, and I deactivated it because I had absolutely no fear. And I still don't. But I took a whole lot of crap. And obviously, as you grow up, you realize that, okay, cool, like, I can still be that person, but it needs to kind of maybe be compartmentalized and be shared within a community that's not going to internalize that or take that or whatever. And I think as young creative, everybody jumps to, I have no fear, I'm young, I'm gonna shit talk, like, nobody's gonna like hold me down and have, anything to say about me. Like, I guess, but if you're looking at the game to be in the long run, you need to just take a step back sometimes, take a breather, think about things, think about why you're doing those things. Again, thinking about our country and our history, we always undermine, certain pressures that people might be under and the reason why they make those decisions. That's why I'm saying, like, do not be naive to think that because you see something as one way, that's the only way that it is. You have absolutely no idea why that person is choosing to operate that particular way or why that person has made that particular decision. You need to kind of just take a step back and say, okay, cool, like, I don't know much about this, and that's okay. Let me get to know it if I care about it. And really try and have good people behind you. It is easier said than done, but at the same time, don't look too far. I think what happens in the creative space is that we do kind of want to go faster than how far our legs can actually take us, because you know where you want to be. You know that, what, right now there's a blank canvas, but I know at each particular corner what the color looks like. And instead of finishing that corner of red on the canvas, you already want to rush to the corner that's pink, or like mix the blue and red to make purple. And it's like, just wait. Let's conquer red first. And it's just patience as well. Like if I could tell the youth, like, yo, you just need to be patient. And there's nothing anybody can do for you for that. It happens to everybody. Literally everybody has come across a journey, especially in the creative space, where you just need to be patient and trust that, like, you know what? I've been pushing this, I've been hustling this, it's gonna pick up somehow. And it might not pick up in the way that you want it. It might not even be picked up by the people you want it to be picked up by in the beginning. But life is long. Well, let me say creative life is long, not necessarily life, because obviously we've lost a lot of people along the way. So creatively, life is so long. You know, you can choose to do so many things. So as a youth, like, also don't get stuck in it. You could wake up every day in high school thinking that you want to be a photographer. Like you see a mini photography and you're like, yo, I want to be that guy. He's so good. You see a YS, you know, you're like, yo, amazing. You know, the K paparazzis, like, that's what you look at. And then as you get older, you're like, wait, no, actually, maybe I might want to get into videography. I might want to get into production. So don't also rush your journey, and don't put a full stop to anything. I've never put a full stop to anything that I've done. I could not have predicted that I would end up in the position where I'm a music marketing consultant. I didn't even study this. I went to school, I did ecos, I did politics, I did like serious degrees. I was reading. Yeah. You know, international relations. I mean, that's important now when it's time to travel and like visas. Everything always comes full circle, but number one, don't be naive. Do not be naive. Like, don't believe everything that you see, especially now we're in the age of like, there are different ways that you can find information. You know, it doesn't always have to be the internet. You can grab a conversation with some people and just be like, yo, how does this actually work? Or what do you actually do? Don't be naive, and don't put a full stop. Do not put a full stop, because as soon as you do, the world will as well. Whatever you give us, we're going to take it. Like, if you tell me you're just that, then you're just that. The world doesn't owe you a platform to explore yourself. You owe that to yourself. And then the world will accept you the way that you've positioned yourself. So if you tell us that you're not, I'm a videographer, photographer, songwriter, producer, swag. That's amazing. I believe you. But if you put a full stop, then we'll also take it as a full stop. And I think that that's also the frustration of the youth, is that they get frustrated because they've put a full stop without knowing. And then there's like, nothing's happening, or like, no one's listening to me. And it's just like, well, you stopped yourself. There could have been different avenues that you could have done and explored, and then come back to what it was. My favorite story, and I think maybe it's because it's close to home in the sense that I'm from Durban and Blackie's from Durban. There was like an old video that was circulating on Twitter back in the day. And I think Leo DeLeo was in it, and you know, they're rapping Purple Rain. Where we at, Purple Rain? That could have been his full stop. Where it's like, hey, we just some young niggas from Guamashu, and like, you know, we rapping, chicken licking for the pain. And then he was like, nah, actually, I'm good at this. I've got the voice for this, I've got the talent for this, and I've got the likability. And the full stop didn't come from, I'm just gonna be a hip hop guy, and I'm just gonna rap. That's what I'm gonna do, because we don't know. Maybe Blackie was sitting there watching, like you're saying, the AKAs, Nasty C's, Casper Nyovest, especially like a Nasty C. Nasty C is also from Durban, yeah. You know, and people also get jaded by hometown glory. You look at you like, damn, Nasty C, like maybe, and it's just like Blackie said, nah, my voice is swag. I'm gonna hop on piano. I'm gonna hop on like Afrobeat or whatever it is that I can do. He didn't give us a full stop, so the world didn't either. And, you know, the growth of an artist like Blackie has been amazing to see because of that. So you just have to wait. And it's gonna be tough. It's tough for everyone. Everyone looks at us in the industry and think we have it figured out. We don't. Every single day, we have to reach within the community and say, I don't understand this thing. Like, what's masters and publishing, licensing? Like, it's literally in every day. And even then in music, don't limit yourself to be that, I only do publishing. Oh, okay, cool. Unless that's really what you want to do. Unless you want to like base your power in that and your passion in that. But as a youth, while you're coming up, do not give yourself a full stop.
Minenhle, born. God damn. Firstly, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Secondly, shout out to the good folks at Johnnie Walker rocking the Daisies.
Thank you, JW.
This was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was dope. Thanks, guys.